Everybody comes in here, they think they're right for the part, they think they're gonna get the part, but only one person gets the part.
It's been such a long time since we've been able to do something like this.
All you need is ignorance and confidence, and success is yours.
Well, I'm very raw with my emotions. First, I feel them, then I understand why I feel them. And then I go deeper, and I ask myself logically, how long can I afford to keep this in storage?
Don't play dumb, Mordecai. I know you rule the universe.
There are winners and losers, especially in Hollywood.
I don't know about you, but I'm trying to get to the motherfucking top.
Hi everybody, welcome to Graceful Planet. Thank you for joining us. I am your host, Jose Peña, and a little backstory into me. I am an independent filmmaker.
Cut!
Alright guys, we've been doing this shot for the past 2 days. I mean, it's time to get serious. I think it's a really simple shot, you know. I just need you guys to bring some more to the table. Okay? I mean, could you look at me like you mean it? Do you mean it? Show me you mean it. You mean it? Good. Okay, that's it. Now how about you? You have anything yeah? No? Okay, good. Originally from New York, now based in Los Angeles. I've been directing for about 12 years now. I have been actively writing and editing for about 6 years, and here we are now. I was born and raised in the Bronx, a little cul-de-sac named Short Haven. And from a very young age, I was inspired by films because my cousin Michelle, she had a whole library of bootleg videos that was just planted all over the walls. Like when you walked into the room, everything was just shelf on shelf on shelf. So I don't think there was a film growing up that I haven't seen because of that woman. The goal of this channel is first and foremost to entertain. Secondly, I hope that you find inspiration as I explain the hardships and also the fun times that I've experienced on my journey. What kickstarted my film career, I have to give credit to my grandmother, Ida Melendez. She bought me a Canon 60D. It was back in 2012. And for those first 2 years, I just started taking photos of everything. And then I started filming at Hooters, which was a place that I used to work at. I was a line cook and I would film stuff with my coworkers. Our very first film was a Hooters piece of employees complaining about the conditions of working in that kitchen.
Dear kitchen, of which I won't name because I'll get sued. I'm writing this letter to let you know how awesome you are. But what I love more about your welcoming arms are the tools provided to help me get the job done efficiently. Knives that can't cut tomatoes and broken fryers are every line cook's dream. Taking time out of my well-earned break to make reasonably sized tickets is such a delight. And when a problem arises, you taught me how to handle it well. For that, I thank you.
And then we also jumped on a trend called the Harlem Shake, which you might be familiar with it. Hooters had their own version of it. Outside of that, in between shooting, the very first short that I shot was called Infinite, and we shot that at Hooters. And that's my very first collaboration with Sean Fitzharris.
I don't live here, I'm just an actor they hired, so everything I'm about to tell you is from a script. But they assure me it's true. And I sure hope so, because this is a really big check they gave me, and I hope they're good for it. So, let's get down to business.
And we fell in love. From there, we started a production company called Phat Cheetah. From there, we just started filming every week. We started off doing short scenes, then we jumped into different genres like comedy, we jumped into horror, and we also jumped into mini documentaries. And that was the idea. It was supposed to be this free flow, free form content where basically any week, it's like a mystery box. You click on the link and you don't know what you're gonna get.
It's just a pot!
It's just a pot!
It's just a lid!
It's just a lid!
You're not the lobster, I am.
Holy shit!
You're a man.
I'm a man!
A manly man who's not a lobster.
I'm a manly man!
Today is the first day of the rest of your life.
Thank you, lobster friend! Ah!
So originally, Phat Cheetah was meant to be a YouTube channel. And we were able to put out 4 shorts before we had to pivot.
I raised 10.
No, you can't raise. We're not betting.
Oh, well then I call.
No, we're not betting now. There's no betting in the game.
There's no betting in the game?
No.
Then how do I know my odds?
Your odds are slim. Move. Not you move. Move the piece.
I know that.
That's my piece.
Okay, how am I supposed to know what my pieces are?
You're white.
Thank you, you're kind of a tannish
No,
color.
the pieces are white. Your pieces are the white pieces.
Well, I thought it was the horses.
No.
Okay, let me get this straight. All the white pieces are mine?
Yes.
Oh! Okay. Okay. Alright, I get it now.
Sean came with his own community of actors who had already knew of him and wanted to work with him. And the waitresses and people who worked at Hooters were also in the entertainment industry. A lot of people did acting, a lot of people wrote, a lot of people wanted to shoot or also start shooting. So we were all part of this little bubble that inspired each other. Sean is my soul brother. He's, I would like to say, the guy that kickstarted a lot of this, mainly by giving me the inspiration and matching my crazy. And also just helping me realize that I had even more crazy to offer because, again, you don't really know anything about yourself until you're in a position to learn. Definitely someone who is such an important piece to my filmmaking journey. And that's why it brings me back full circle to this whole moment because, you know, Phat Cheetah, on top of it being a very beautiful start, it was also my first encounter with pivoting and understanding that nothing stays the same. So Sean, he suffers from bipolar disorder and he had a manic attack. Because of the manic attack, he ended up being admitted and he had to go back home. And that was the end of Phat Cheetah. Basically, that whole idea, you know, that spirit behind it sort of dwindled for a bit. And it was like, oh, I finally found the answers and then ended up back at square one. I was like, who am I gonna find now? Who's gonna be like the person that wants to like do this seriously? Oh yeah, the end of Phat Cheetah definitely instigated the question I didn't even think I was asking myself when I started was who I am as a filmmaker. So yeah, it definitely forced my hand and it brought me back to the same old logic that I had when I started, which was working with what I have. Ultimately, it was more of a collaboration with this other great voice, and this was the start of me finding my own voice.
Eat it.
Oh, I block your 4 points, and I counter with a fire attack!
That's a 2 of club. You know, never mind. I evade your fire attack. I pass go. I collect $200 and send you directly to jail.
You wouldn't!
I just did.
You bastard! Let me out of this prison!
It's really easy for kids to get their hands.
The backstory of Chess Game, we went to Cario's house and we shot in his kitchen. And the whole idea was to just shoot this one-off sketch to get Phat Cheetah going. We did it all with one camera, my Canon 60D, one lens, and we also had a Roach shotgun mic. And we had no additional lighting at all, except for the overhead kitchen light and the natural light coming from the window. It was a little challenging. For example, when Sean slams his hand on the table, the pieces scatter across the board, and that definitely helped develop a skill set of being aware of continuity. I want to say that idea was mainly the offspring of Divine Comedy, which was the previous sketch comedy platform that Sean was running.
Pop it! Pass it! Twist it! Pass it!
Oh, come on, it's just a game. Try it one more time.
Okay.
Bop it! Pass it! Pass it! Pass it! Back for more, slut? Stroke it!
So a lot of those old ideas that he wanted to see come to life made it into Phat Cheetah.
Come out, just come out. the whole reason you're in there is to. I'm gonna open the door.
Ah! You son of a bitch. When Sean first told me about what he wanted to do with Matthew Silver, I immediately looked him up. I knew who Matthew Silver was at that point. I'd seen him in Union Square around the city a few times. And to be honest, I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
I had the option of buying regular underwear, but then I saw the bikinis right in the second row. Oh my god.
Known Sean for a really long time. I trust him. I was like, I hoped I would have a better understanding as we moved along.
Also, another love child from Sean. He was actually my introduction to Matthew Silver, because I had no idea who the man was.
He's over here. He's Matthew Silver.
I feel pathetic.
No, don't feel pathetic. Okay, he's feeling a little self-conscious right now, but he's.
Don't say that!
Okay. I actually was wondering if he would like show up in his underwear or with the normal clothes. I didn't know what to expect. I thought he might be already in character.
Stop making fun of me!
I'm not making. No one's
making fun of me!
No one's making fun of you, man.
So, Sean brings me to Matthew Silver. Meet him. The dude is infectious. Like his energy, you can see it. He's just totally about what he's about, and I loved every aspect of it. I think that's what made it so cool and surprising, just walking in, but also being on the tail end of that and filming it. Wow. And it was very challenging because it was the first time I ever jumped into something like a documentary.
Yeah.
You know, which doesn't have the same kind of flow that a narrative piece would, where, you know, there's not specific lighting. Your set is the world, and whatever the world does is what you get. And it was just really cool, the magnet that just formed around us.
Things actually happen when you go out in your underwear. You know, more and more people are doing it every year.
People wanted to talk to us. People wanted to talk to us on the train. People wanted to talk on camera. It was very foreign to me. So when we posted it, not even 2 days later, we had 250,000 views. That's when we knew we were onto something. There was something there, and that's when I also started to like reevaluate what kind of films I wanted to make, because documenting has kind of been a staple in my life. I've been doing it ever since, and people tend to resonate to those stories the most.
Did you hear that? He loves it.
My advice is don't overthink it. I think overthinking is the death of creativity. And if you have access to actors, doesn't have to be Leo DiCaprio, doesn't have to be so-and-so who you saw on whatever. It just has to be people who want to get the project done. You don't have to have the fanciest camera, you don't have to have the fanciest lighting, you don't have to have the fancy anything. You just need to start doing it, because this is a lifestyle. Don't overthink it. Just do it.
Writing is hard.
I watched a film called Lenny, which was about Lenny Bruce, and I was very inspired by his story. And I wanted to tackle something a little different. He's a comedian, and he's basically expressing his pain for the amusement of others.
Why are you clapping at that? Or fuck it, maybe your life's a joke too. Maybe it's all a joke. Everyone is just part of one big punchline.
This was more like a dramedy. So it was me jumping into a place of balance where I had to just figure out these two tones.
You know how they do the lip thing? They pout it out and just, oh, don't worry, Ivan. I'll die before you. Okay, so don't do it. Just do it, please, so I can get some work done. And then she died, of course.
I was also still grieving the death of my great-grandmother, and
The film itself also deals with a guy who's grieving while he's in the middle of a comedy set. So I thought that was a good way to channel that energy.
Dude, you do that too? Yeah, everybody does that. Where have you been? Do you also twist it so it's in a spiral? Yeah, it's the barber pole. Oh my god, why haven't we talked about this before?
Because the American media feeds you only what they want you to hear. I mean, if you want to get any kind of reliable information, you have to start reading non-US publications. That's why I have a subscription to The Guardian.
Dinner Party was shot by me, and I used my Canon, a tripod, the kitchen lighting that they had, and a shotgun mic. I shot without a shot list, which was kind of how I shot everything in my early phases. I still do so now, but because I'm an editor now and I understand it a little differently, I ended up paying for dearly, I think, in the final product. Definitely a fun film, but sound was one of the biggest challenges.
I have an announcement.
It's also the first time I shot nudity, and it was also spur of the moment. We didn't really come in and talk about it beforehand. The other Sean was very just down to do it, and I was like, cool, guess we're gonna have an ass shot.
It's 2014.
The piece was meant to be a commentary on social commentary and how we were noticing a shift in media at the time, and how, you know, instead of things just focusing solely on the entertainment factor, a lot of agendas were being plugged into media. And don't get me wrong, you should be woke. There's a lot of things that you should know about. But I truly believe that art is its own thing, and certain pieces can be informative or they can comment on something, but for the most part, a good story reflects your life back in a way that's not so on the nose. And I miss that type of storytelling.
I know, I'm sorry. That came out of left field. I know, it's okay, all right? It's okay. It's okay, it happens. How about this, all right? How about this? Megan Fox is gonna die. Does that make you feel better? Does that lift your spirits? Megan Fox is gonna die.
I will say that taking risks for the sake of risk is not the best move. Just getting a project together is a risk overall. So you should lean into taking more risks, because chances are you might be on to greatness. As a storyteller, I don't think there is any genre I wouldn't tackle. It just has to make sense. I love all genres. It's really hard to say that there is one favorite, because I think when done right, every genre can blow your mind. At the end of the day, I have my own unique perspective, and I try to stick to what I know, not what I think is trendy or what somebody might relate to. Because I've also made things on a whim that I was very surprised people related to. So again, this all goes back to what I said way earlier about overthinking. Just don't do it. It's the death of you. But also don't try to make things fit where they don't. Because you might write a completely epic title that has nothing to do with the movie you wrote. You might write a completely epic character that really has no place in that film you wrote. I've done it. I've had a character that I think she lived in 3 different films before she found her home. So yeah, really just don't overthink it. Understand your world, and all those things will come to you. Nightmare was my first attempt at making a horror film. It was the last short film I got to do with Sean before his manic attack. We had just come off the high of the previous shorts, and Sean and I wanted to take it to the next level. So you'll see in this movie, it's very active. There's a lot of camera movements. There's very little dialogue, because it's just between this woman and this entity that's haunting her dreams. So we wanted to find ways to make her relatable. I really enjoyed the process. It was grueling. We did at least 4 days of choreography, and then Corey hurt her hand, which we sort of wrote that into the script as a joke. we had to do all the choreography ourselves. We didn't have a stunt coordinator, and YouTube at the time didn't really have very many videos on the subject, so I did what I could to study certain camera movements, but for the most part we were really just shooting in the dark, both literally and figuratively. But I had a lot of fun. I think the end results, it shows heart, and I look back at that video often because despite all of its technical shortcomings, it's so charming. We basically did it with $5 and a bag of chips, and I didn't know that all these things were going to happen leading up to Solitude.
The theory was, if you run, you survive. Unless you're backed into a corner. Then you transform. Right? I became really good at that.
When you look at that project in particular, like especially from the past ones, which had very little, this one actually had a full setup of equipment. I was using a 1K RE light, we were using a Blackmagic Cinema Cam. It just changed the game for me and like what filmmaking could be, and it was probably the closest I've ever seen to like my vision coming to life. It was really, 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 really thematic and moody, and it just elevated my artistry, I think. Something that I didn't consider was the time. I was impressed with the visuals, but also super, super stressed if you mess up a take, because a lot of him was inflicting harm to himself. We have to have him sit back down and go through the process of rebuilding that prosthetic all over again. It definitely taught me to be more mindful and to plan ahead. That was also the first time we did some visual effects. Funny enough, another artist who happened to work on the first Avatar film, he did the VFX for me. It's a really quick 10-second shot of a guy pulling an egg out of his palm, and inside the egg you can see it squirming, and then he puts it in his mouth and eats it. And this guy did it for $100, and I met him on Craigslist, and he's amazing. We met our DP on Craigslist as well. Everybody who joined the project did it for free. We ended up going to this mansion in Staten Island where we ended up spending the night for free. I had no money at all, so I couldn't feed the crew. It was a 2-day shoot. We slept on the floor in an attic. And that whole location that you saw was pretty much our bedroom for the night, because we had to shoot it all that one night. Because also one of the actors who was in it had a flight that night. So he was in the middle of shooting and then had to run to catch his flight. The main actor just so happened to be Method, so he was all about being in a very frantic, uncomfortable state. It just helped him. And I was just very surprised with how people responded to that and how on board they were, considering I didn't pay them anything and they gave me 2 days of their life. It was also an important moment for me because now it was like we're in the end game. And yeah, I learned a lot about myself outside of having that like safety blanket, because again, it's always cool when you have someone else around you who shares that energy. It's a lot easier to bear the burden. And when he left the picture for a while, it definitely forced me to reconsider my strategy and what kind of filmmaker I wanted to be. I want to say Craigslist is a good last resort. I would never say it should be your first option because there's so many platforms nowadays. Now, there's no real reason to go there unless you have to. I'm easygoing. I think I'm an easygoing filmmaker. Not that I don't take things seriously, but again, it goes back to the unofficial first rule of not overthinking. I tend to be very definitive in my choices, and I feel really good about them because I understand where they're headed. You know, if you understand where the tracks are going, you can place them anywhere. So that's pretty much my approach to filmmaking and who I am as a filmmaker.
Once anything becomes a habit, it takes very little effort.